Absolutely. That's exactly what I was going to ask you now. You know, in this context, how can coaching help?
You know, and that's how coaching can help, because I can't see what you see, you know, and I am a different observer of the world than you are. So I can help you see things that are unavailable to you, and you can too, just by the fact that you're a different observer.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, and it, you know, if they say, well, why do I need a coach? Nobody needs a coach, right? My point of view is that I don't know anyone who couldn't benefit from having a coach. But then we have to define our terms, and defining the term coach means that I, as the coachee, have, and the word is escaping me, but have given you permission to coach me. I have constituted you as my coach.
Yeah.
And that means that I am open and available and willing to explore with you what's going on.
Yes.
And if I don't constitute you as if you don't constitute me as your coach, then there's no coaching that's going to happen.
No, because you're working with someone who's basically uncoachable. This is one of the challenges I think certainly I find when clients are sent to me by, say, the HR department or something, and they do not want to be there. It's like, well, I can try, but actually, unless they're a willing participant, it's very hard to coach someone who doesn't want to be coached.
Yeah. And that's, you know, when I get sent somebody, which is very seldom anymore, and I just don't accept those assignments, my first question is, do you want to be here? You know, and they, you know, and you can tell me honestly, because if you don't want to be here, but you have to be here, is a different conversation that we're going to have than that you want to be here and you have to be here. This is very different. And I'm not going to blow your cover. I'm not going to go and tell them, hey, this person isn't coachable, they don't want to be here. But you have to work with me so we can find something that would benefit you during these 10 sessions, 12, whatever it is, so that we can come into some kind of partnership here. Because we're going to be, you know, HR has determined that this is important. So how do we make the best of it?
How do we make the best of it? Yeah, I think that's it. And you touched on something really nice a few moments ago, Curtis, where you talked about how I observe the world and how you observe the world. And I can, as your coach, I can bring something to you as my coachee. But equally, I see it's the other way as well. I really see the coaching relationship as being very co-creative. So we are creating this new possibility, creating these new awarenesses, almost having these insights together. And I find as a coach, I learn as much from the sessions or get as much out of the sessions as my coachees do. It's a very energizing process because it's so co-creative.
Yeah, it's one of my teachers' favorite expressions. Julio Olaya, the founder of the Newfield Network, he called that, what you're just talking about, Allison, he called it the joke of coaching. The joke of coaching. You come to me to get coached on something that I'm working on myself.
Yeah, always. It's always your own stuff.
And it's just, the difference is I am a few steps further down the path.
Yes.
Right. But to your point, we're both benefiting from this exchange, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's one of the things I love about a coaching model, is that there's still one up, one down, but there is much more peer aspect to it than, say, standard psychology or psychiatry.
Yeah. And you're trying not to be teaching. It is, as I very much see, it's like we're going on a journey together. You're bringing something, I'm bringing something. Let's see what we discover. And as you say, as a coach, hopefully you're a few steps ahead. You've got some things you can bring to that, but it's still a journey and a co-creative process.
Yeah, what I'm bringing are distinctions that they probably don't have. Right? Yeah. And what they're bringing is their experience to the life that they've lived, that I haven't lived and couldn't possibly know.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why it's so rich and exciting. You never know what's going to happen in any session, do you? I love it.
Me too.
So when people come to you, Curtis, now I know on your website you talk a lot about people living, I think I saw somewhere, lives of quiet desperation, and this sense of how do they find their purpose. And I'd just love to get your views on that. How do you help people who are feeling really stuck? What's your approach?
It depends on, obviously, it depends on the person.
Mm-hmm.
Depends on the conditions. So in Buddhism, they talk about how whatever is present is based on causes and conditions.
Mm-hmm.
If you change the causes and the conditions, you'll change what's present. Makes sense. And so whatever it is that they're coming with and they're presenting is, I want to know, so what are the causes and what are the conditions that you're living in that has you suffering around X?
Mm-hmm.
And then through language or emotions or the body, we can begin to shift whatever those causes and conditions are so that we can begin to manifest something that is more preferable to the client. And in terms of purpose, when people come to me with that journey in mind, oftentimes they think that purpose is out there somewhere and you have to find it, and you might not find it, and if you don't find it, then you're screwed forever. So it's busting up some of those stories, and I'm laughing at myself because I'm working with a creativity teacher,
Mm-hmm.
and one of the first things that they talked about was creativity is inherent in all of us. It's not some of us have it, and those of us, I was thinking, well, I'm in the box of those that just don't have it.
Yeah.
And hearing that was so freeing. And it's also with clients, it's like hearing the fact that, no, you have a purpose and you can find it. It is available to you. And like you said, which I love, it's like, let's go take a journey and explore. And it's not like you have to find the right purpose. It's like, let's see what we can discover together.
Yeah.
And take the pressure off. Right? But it's almost always aligned with stuff they like to do.
Yeah. Which makes sense.
You know? And where they get caught up is, you know, and this is our culture as much as anything else, where they get caught up is, yeah, but how do I make a living doing that? And I go, let's worry about that later. Let's really just dive into what it is that you really love to do.
Yeah.
You know? And that's where we go with that. And
so if we've got listeners who are thinking, well, that's me, I'm feeling that sense of I don't know what to do, how do I find it, is there, aside from getting a coach obviously, but is there anything else you would suggest they could start thinking about, or ways they could start thinking themselves, or perhaps getting into their body more to perhaps bring some fresh insights? What would you suggest as a starting point?
so there's several different ways. First of all, there are purpose coaches out there. They're brilliant, the ones that I know of anyway. And but if you just wanted to start on your own, one of my favorite exercises around this is remember a time that you were really successful and had a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
And then journal about that. So what was present that had that be A, fun, and B, success?
Mm-hmm.
And it could be from your childhood, it could be school days, it could be a business thing, anything, right? And what were the key elements there? And once you begin to pick those key elements apart, you go, these are probably related to your purpose in life. Mm-hmm. These key elements are pointers, and you can, what did you feel like in your body when you were in this project that you were doing? And You know, wow, I was really excited. I was having a lot of fun. My body was tingling. And it's like, okay. And it's like, well, when was the last time you felt that? The day I got married, you know, it's like, well, how long, you know, 20 years ago, whatever. It's like, so, but you know what it feels like, right? And it's like, okay, so that's one domain, one exercise that can start someone off. And another exercise is just pay attention when you light up.
Mm-hmm.
By light up, I mean, when do you feel your body get engaged and get excited and energized? And so when do you light up? When do you smile? When do you, it's like, what are those moments throughout your day? And then if you don't have any of those, then we have a different problem.
Yeah.
Right? That's something like, I had a client of mine who says, I don't feel joy. And I go, okay, all right. I don't believe you, but let's just go with that. And I said, so here's your assignment. Your assignment for the next week is to go out and notice joy wherever you see it. Well, I don't see joy anywhere. I go, I understand that, but okay, let's just suspend disbelief here for a second and see if you can spot it. Not necessarily in yourself, but on the television, in the movies, on the sidewalk, in a restaurant, wherever you are. If you think somebody might be experiencing some joy, I want you to write that down.
I love that. I'm going to steal that.
Oh, and she was so flabbergasted. The next week when we got on the call, she was joyful, number one, herself, at discovering all this, but you would not believe all the joy she found in the world.
Yeah.
It was like, it's like you find what you're looking for.
So it's the noticing, it's getting into the noticing, sounds like, because I get this as well. Often when I'm coaching, I'll be like, what do you notice in your body? Nothing. Nothing's happening. Okay, so and then you try and break it down a little bit. Well, how are you breathing? Where are you breathing? What's happening? Where are you holding tension? And very slowly, maybe something cracks open. But I find it's fascinating how disconnected we are from our bodies. I was myself. I worked in the corporate world for years and was completely disconnected from my body. Discovered breath work, and at that point, I was like, oh, because I could never do sports or anything at school. I was like, no, I'm going to be the brainy one. I'm not anything to do with my body. And then suddenly you rediscover it. It's incredible.
It is. It really is. And this is where coaching, for me, there are times when you need to teach. You need to teach a distinction in order to allow the person to discover. Right? It's like, and before you made that distinction for them, it didn't exist. And one of my favorite stories, again, from Julio, is that in terms of distinctions, is when you go out into the night sky and you look up at the sky and you see all these dots in the sky. It's like, okay, but it's really indeterminate. It's just, wow, those are pretty. Or maybe somebody told you what the Milky Way looked like and you go, oh, that's the Milky Way. But the next night you go out with an astronomer, right? And the distinctions that they can make can bring the whole night sky alive in ways that didn't exist. They literally did not exist for you. And the next night you'll go out with an astrologer, right? And they will make distinctions that didn't exist for you the previous night and probably don't exist for the astronomer.
Yes.
Right. So the power of making distinctions for people is huge. Just in terms of linguistics. So working with a client, and I go, I noticed that you use qualifiers a lot in your language, and they go, well, what do you mean by that? I mean, you use the word if, maybe, sort of, kind of, a lot. And did you notice that? And they were working with setting boundaries. That was one of the things. Oh, I need to work on setting. Okay. And they were unaware of that. And I go, so here's your assignment. Every time you catch yourself using one of those qualifiers, I want you to actually make a declaration. A yes, a no, and see how that feels. And it's just that little distinction, well, it's not so little, can actually have them see, well, if I can't even make a boundary with my language, how am I going to create a physical boundary or an emotional boundary? Anyway, so just at times one has to teach in order to make those distinctions for people. And I think it's a valid part of coaching, even though there are coaching schools who would hit the roof if they heard me say that. You can never ask a leading question.
Well, yes. I mean, I guess it's what is felt needed in the moment. But I think you're right that it's the subtleties of, as you say, of language, that if people aren't aware of them, what you're trying to do is bring awareness to it, and then it's where do they go with it. So it's a starting point, isn't it?
What's the difference between envy and jealousy? Most people don't know the difference, and I didn't know the difference until the distinction was made for me. And it's not like it's the truth, right? It's just like, here's a distinction that might be helpful for you.
Yeah, it's perspective.
Right? And if it is, great. If it's not, okay. You know, I mean...